Yes, thank you very much for inviting me today. And on behalf of the World Bank Group Country Director Auguste Kumame, I'm happy to be with you. I'm based in Washington. I'm the lead climate specialist. And I'm really happy to be actually here because it's been, I started my career doing landfill methane at the US EPA in Washington about 1995. Great to see that that's a topic of conversation. And as well, when I was at the International Energy Agency in Paris, about 10 years ago, I did a lot of technology roadmaps. So I think all the topics we're talking about really feed into what the World Bank Group wants to do with you here in India. So you heard from Mr. Rashmi already that India is already on this green transformation because there's been a lot of very important aggressive announced, including the NDCs, the net zero target and such. We're seeing that accelerate even more in the past year with the amendments to the Energy Conservation Act and talking about putting a price on carbon through markets, and I'd want to talk about that in a minute. So that's picking up. But I think the other thing we haven't talked enough about is I think nearly 100 major Indian corporates have set net zero targets. And so I think combining the government's aggressive targets with these corporate targets, you might call it the mood music in India, is really around this green transformation, so which is a terrific sort of enabling environment that you're operating in. I think the main thing is that India can do this. Has done this many times before, and again, we heard from Mr. Rashmi about the solar transformation that you've already undertaken. Just a personal touch, I was at the IEA 12 years ago, and I was doing some analysis of technology change, and we looked at India about 12 or 14 years ago. It wasn't on the map for solar. Fast forward to today, India is the world's 5th largest solar market. I think he cited some numbers. It's competitive with coal, but actually I think it's been some of the lowest clearing prices for delivered solar power in the world, bar none. And it attracted $71 billion in investment last year. So you've done this before with solar, and I think that we've heard from speakers before, green hydrogen, other industrial technologies are really the next challenge. So I think getting beyond green hydrogen, which is, I know there's a mission, there's a lot of support behind that. If you look at, the World Bank Group is just about to release a new study on industrial decarbonization and innovations across sectors. This is chemicals, steel, cement, all these hard to abate sectors. So you have to get into the next level of detail. So we're talking about low CO2 clinker for cement production. We're talking about the renewable heat in steel. And we're talking about, we heard CCUS. So these technologies are a major step up. These technologies aren't as cost effective as solar, obviously. But I think, how do you then lower that price? So I think this study that we're about to release talks about 2 strategies. One is a supply push from the government. This is funding research, development, and demonstration, pilot projects. It's equity and debt for these sorts of projects. But it's also a demand pull. It's procurement from the government, it's setting standards, and it's putting incentives and prices in place. One thing that is really important I want to recommend is we've done a lot of work canvassing. You've probably read, we're seeing in Europe green steel factories going forward. We're seeing a lot of experimentation and pilots. I've worked in this space for a while now, and one message I would send to you is we can't every country do its own pilot and not share that information. We have to create a platform for collaboration and sharing of it. We have to learn together over the next several years, or we're never going to tackle this really challenging focus on industrial decarbonization. So then the final point I want to make is coming back to carbon markets. They're a key enabler. We've seen time and again how they're reducing costs, and industry here is very supportive of a carbon price. And a lot of the conversations we've had, I think we've already had a perform-achieve trade scheme. You've had success with CDM. So the foundations are there. And I think we actually did a study that is looking at using a carbon market could cut the implementation of the NDC costs in half by $250 billion by 2030. And then getting to what's happening globally, we heard a little bit from the previous speaker. This year, carbon prices are really accelerating. So the EU ETS is over $100 a ton. We've got the Korea and California approaching $30 or $40 a ton. We have some carbon taxes in Singapore, South Africa starting to raise. So finally, we're seeing the prices come up, and the World Bank Group tracks the revenue generation from carbon pricing. This year, it hit $95 billion, and that's real money. It's almost double what it was last year at $55 billion, and we see that trend continuing. So then, with the agreement on Article 6 and India's determination with the Energy Conservation Act to launch carbon markets in a real way in the country, the World Bank Group is helping the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change to look at one of the key features, which is integrity and credibility of carbon markets.